Welcome to Spectral Edition. I'm Tim Prossel. I gotta say, this article that I'm about to read is one of my favorites. It sounds almost like a very well-crafted short story. There's so many crisp, interesting details to it. It was published on July 30th of 1903 in the St. Paul Globe. The headline is, Ghost Haunts the College Library. Watchman declares invisible feet are heard in the corridors at night. Parkersburg, West Virginia, July 28th. The library of the West Virginia University is haunted. Ghostly visitations and spiritual manifestations have become so frequent of late that in the opinion of many staid residents of the vicinity, there is no use trying to conceal the fact any longer. The library is built on the site of an old cemetery, the bones and dust of former occupants having been removed to another resting place. There is a tradition among the old citizens that years ago, a Frenchman named Jean Mareschal lived on that vicinity and after dying mysteriously had been buried in the old cemetery. It is said that he had been banished from France by Marie Antoinette, and it is a fact that a certain volume on the French Revolution, once owned by the dead man, has shown marks of much usage lately, its pages and binding being found on more than one occasion damp in the mornings with fingerprints stained with clay upon the leaves as though but recently handled, and many persons believe that old Jean Mareschal's spirit is now haunting the library built over his grave. Many persons have heard strange sounds and have seen strange sights during the midnight hour, but have heretofore been diffident to describe their experiences for fear of public derision. But H. Hoffman, the night watchman who weighs 250 pounds, has not been afraid to tell what he has seen and heard. His first knowledge that the library was being visited at unusual hours was gained about 2 weeks ago, when about midnight he heard the noise of footsteps ascending the stairs. He listened, opened the door, and followed. The footsteps receded toward the basement, and Hoffman hurried after them and turned on the light, but although he made a thorough search, he could find nothing. Neither could he find a place through which anyone could make his escape. He heard the noise a number of times, the sound of footsteps, rustling as of paper, and such a sound as would be made by the dropping of a book. But although all the doors were locked and the windows fastened down, he was unable to make the slightest discovery. One night, Hoffman heard the same sort of noise in the next room and rushed in to catch the mysterious visitor. He saw a face gazing at him from behind a pillar, and ran toward it, but it disappeared seemingly in the direction of the door and down the steps leading to the basement. The pursuer closed the door behind him and followed. Around the basement fled the nimble feet and up the stairs. Again, Hoffman saw the pale face and shadowy form. Carefully guarding the narrow passageway, he advanced. Near the door, the face turned full upon him. A low moan was heard, and all was silent. Nothing could be found on the stairway. On another night, Hoffman was startled by the sound of voices singing in the basement of the library. There seemed to him to be 100 singers singing with musical precision the measures of an old hymn. The notes and the time seemed familiar at the time, but afterward he was unable to give the hymn a name. The singing stopped when Hoffman entered the basement, but began again when he stood still, and on listening intently, he distinguished the words and tones of a man praying. Hoffman's inexplicable experience is backed up by the experience of quite a number of persons, none of whom can explain the mystery, except on the theory that old Jean Mareschal is haunting the library. I'm Tim Prossel, and I've collected over 300 of these ghost reports, all of them printed in actual U.S. newspapers between 1865, the end of the American Civil War, and 1917, when the U.S. entered World War I. I've chosen the scariest, the most intriguing, and a few of the funniest for a book titled Spectral Edition, Ghost Reports from U.S. Newspapers 1865 to 1917. It's at Amazon in paperback and Kindle, and you can find it at other online bookstores too. For more information, visit brombonesbooks.com.